A billionaire in Washington, D.C. had everything money could buy: buildings across the city, technology companies that shaped policy, real estate worth hundreds of millions. His name was Marcus Wellington, and he was 75 years old. But he had nothing that actually mattered. His wife died when he was 40. His three children never called except to ask for money. His business partners smiled while sharpening knives behind closed doors. And after decades of watching people betray him, steal from him, lie to him, Marcus Wellington had reached one terrible, absolute conclusion. Everyone on earth is greedy. Give them a chance to take something without consequence, and they will take it every single time. Then one rainy Saturday in March, everything changed. A woman named Maria came to work at his mansion. She was desperate for employment. She had a daughter, Isabella, 12 years old, poor, struggling. Her father was dead. Her mother worked two jobs just to survive. Marcus made a decision that day. He would test them. He left $10,000 openly on his desk. He pretended to sleep. He waited to catch the girl stealing. But what Isabella did next didn't just prove him wrong. It destroyed his entire belief system. It wasn't what she took that changed him. It was what she gave. If you believe that people can change, that character matters, that one act of kindness can transform a life, stay with us. Subscribe because you're part of a community that still believes that. Now let's get into the story. The rain fell on Massachusetts Avenue like an assault. It hammered the pavement, turned the streets into rivers, made the city fold in on itself. This was Washington, D.C. at its most unforgiving, powerful, prestigious, cold. Somewhere in this landscape of old money and influence, a lonely old man sat in his study preparing to confirm a theory he'd held for 50 years. Marcus Wellington's mansion on Massachusetts Avenue was a monument to wealth. Floor-to-ceiling mahogany bookshelves held leather-bound volumes nobody read. Original artwork hung on walls, real art, not prints. A Persian rug covered the marble floor. The fireplace crackled with warmth that somehow never reached the room's core. Marcus sat in an Italian leather chair positioned near bay windows that overlooked the rain-soaked street. He was 75 years old, distinguished, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit that fit him like armor. His eyes were closed. His breathing was measured and rhythmic, perfect in its performance of sleep. But Marcus was awake, completely, acutely, calculatingly awake. His mind had been sharp for 75 years, and it wasn't dulling now. It was focused, waiting, preparing for confirmation of what he already knew to be true about humanity. Marcus had lived long enough to learn that the world operated on a simple principle. Everyone was selfish. His wife, dead for 35 years, had understood this before cancer took her. His three children had proven it by abandoning him except when they wanted money. His business partners had proven it by stealing from him. His staff had proven it the same way. Different names, different circumstances, but always the same result: greed, betrayal, selfishness. The test he'd prepared was elegant in its simplicity. On the mahogany desk beside his chair sat an open envelope. Inside, $10,000 in crisp $100 bills. The money was visibly spilling out, carelessly positioned, begging to be taken. It was enough to change a poor person's life for 2 months. It was, Marcus believed, irresistible. He'd arranged for Maria Delgado to work for him 3 weeks ago. The background check had confirmed what he needed. Widow, desperate for employment, single child, living in poverty near DuPont Circle. The poor understood the value of money in ways the rich never could. They understood what $10,000 meant. They understood temptation. He'd also arranged for today. The schools were closed for emergency repairs. Maria had nowhere to leave her daughter. She would bring Isabella, a 12-year-old who'd never had anything, a child who understood need. Marcus heard the door open softly. 2 sets of footsteps entered the study, one adult, one child. The adult was nervous. Marcus could hear it in the hesitant way she moved. The child was silent, trained by poverty to be invisible. Marcus maintained his sleep breathing, listening. Maria's voice trembled as she whispered to her daughter, her words carrying the weight of desperation. She positioned Isabella in the corner like a small soldier being sent into battle, with the only instruction being, "Don't move, don't breathe, don't exist." Then Maria left, and Marcus was alone with the girl. 5 minutes passed. 10. Marcus's neck began to cramp, but he refused to move. The fireplace crackled. The grandfather clock ticked. Outside, the rain continued its assault. Then Marcus heard it, the soft rustle of fabric. Isabella was standing, his muscles tense beneath his stillness. This was it. The moment was coming. The moment when the girl would see the money and reach for it. The moment that would confirm once again that everyone was corrupt. Small footsteps approached his chair. Slow, hesitant, careful. Isabella reached his position. He could almost feel her breath. He waited for the sound of paper rustling, for the grab, for the moment of theft that would prove his theory correct. But it didn't come. Instead, something unexpected happened. A small, cold hand gently touched his arm. The touch was light, barely a feather's weight. Reverent, like she was checking if he was alive. Marcus fought the urge to flinch. He maintained his breathing. Isabella withdrew her hand and sighed, a heavy, world-weary sigh that sounded ancient coming from a 12-year-old. She whispered words that Marcus hadn't prepared for. "You're cold, Mr. Wellington. Mommy says sick people shouldn't get cold." Then impossibly, Isabella removed her only jacket, worn, damp from rain, cheap, and draped it over his legs like a blanket. She returned to her corner and sat shivering in just her undershirt. Then she noticed the envelope sliding toward the table edge and carefully pushed it back to safety. Marcus lay in the chair, unable to process what had just happened. His trap, so carefully constructed, had been destroyed by a single act of kindness from a girl who had nothing. 10 minutes later, the door burst open. Maria rushed in, breathless, face pale with terror. She'd been running from the dining room. Her eyes scanned the study in seconds. She saw Isabella sitting in the corner without her jacket. She saw her daughter's worn, cheap hoodie draped over the billionaire's expensive suit. She saw the envelope still sitting on the table. Maria's hands flew to her mouth. She thought the worst. She thought her daughter had been misbehaving. She thought Isabella had tried to touch the old man or steal the money. She thought they were finished, ruined, homeless. Maria rushed to Isabella and grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet with the force of a mother's panic. "What did you do?" Maria demanded, her voice sharp with fear. "Why is your jacket on him? Did you touch that money?" "Did you touch him?" Isabella's eyes were wide, terrified. "No, Mommy," the girl said quickly. "He was shivering. I just wanted to keep him warm. And the paper was falling off the table, so I fixed it." Maria looked from Isabella to Marcus to the money on the table. In that moment, she understood what had really happened, and the understanding was worse than what she'd imagined. She'd misunderstood her daughter's kindness for misbehavior. "Oh, God," Maria whispered, tears already forming. "Oh, God, he's going to wake up. He's going to fire us. We're ruined." Maria frantically pulled the jacket off Marcus's legs, her hands shaking so violently she nearly knocked over the lamp beside the chair. Her entire body trembled with terror. "I'm so sorry," Maria whispered desperately to the sleeping man, even though she thought he couldn't hear her. "I'm so sorry. Please don't wake up. She didn't mean to bother you. She's just a child. Please, sir, I need this job. I need this job to survive." Maria held Isabella close, her eyes squeezed shut, waiting for him to open his eyes, waiting for him to yell, waiting for her world to collapse. Then Marcus groaned, loudly, theatrically. He shifted in his chair. Maria froze completely. Time stopped. Marcus's eyes opened slowly. He blinked, adjusting to the light. He looked at the ceiling first, then slowly lowered his gaze to the terrified woman and small girl standing by the door. They looked like prey caught in a predator's sight. Marcus put on his best grumpy face. His bushy gray eyebrows came together. He scowled with all the bitterness of 75 years. "What?" he demanded, voice gruff and harsh. What is all this noise? Can a man not get some rest in his own house? Maria stammered, bowing her head, the words tumbling out in desperate waves. I am so sorry, Mr. Wellington. I was just cleaning. This is my daughter. I had no choice. The schools were closed due to the storm. We are leaving right now. Please, sir, don't fire me. I'll take her outside immediately. She won't bother you again. Please, sir, I need this job. Marcus stared at them. His expression was unreadable, blank, cold. He looked at the envelope of money on the table. It was exactly where Isabella had pushed it, centered, protected, safe from falling. He looked at Isabella trembling in her mother's arms, not from cold anymore, but from fear of the angry old man, the girl who had given her only jacket to a stranger. Marcus sat up straighter. He reached out and picked up the envelope. He tapped it slowly against his palm. The money made a soft rustling sound. Maria squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the accusations. She was expecting him to accuse them of stealing. Boy, Marcus said, his voice booming. Isabella peeked from behind her mother's leg. Yes, sir. Come here, Marcus commanded. Maria gripped Isabella's shoulder tighter. Sir, she didn't mean to. Come here, Marcus repeated, his voice sharp and clear. Isabella stepped away from her mother. She walked slowly toward the armchair, her small hands shaking visibly. She stopped right in front of Marcus's knees, looking up at him with eyes that combined both fear and impossible courage. Marcus leaned forward until his face was inches from hers. He looked deep into her eyes, searching for something, studying her like he was trying to understand a language he'd forgotten. Did you put your jacket on me? Marcus asked quietly. Yes, sir, Isabella answered. Why? Marcus continued. I'm a stranger to you. I'm rich. I have a closet full of expensive coats upstairs. I have wealth you can't even imagine. Why would you give me your only jacket? Isabella looked down at her shoes with the holes worn through the toes. Then she looked back up at Marcus. Because you look cold, sir, she said, her voice quiet but steady. And Mommy says that when someone is cold, you give them a blanket, even if they are rich. Cold is cold. Marcus stared at the girl. In that moment, something fundamental inside the 75-year-old billionaire cracked open. Marcus sat in the armchair with Isabella standing before him, and for the first time in 50 years, his perfectly constructed worldview began to collapse. What is your name? Marcus asked, his voice suddenly gentler. Isabella, sir, she replied. Marcus nodded slowly. He looked at the money in his hand, then at the open door behind the terrified mother and child. Something inside him made a decision. The test wasn't over. It had just begun. You woke me up, Marcus said, returning to his grumpy persona. I hate being woken up. Maria let out a small sob of despair. We are leaving, sir, she said, turning toward the door with Isabella. No, Marcus said sharply. You're not leaving. We are leaving, sir, Maria repeated, pulling Isabella's hand. Marcus's voice cracked like a whip across the room. Stop! Maria froze mid-step. She turned around slowly, her face completely drained of color. I didn't say you could leave, Marcus growled. He pointed at the armchair. Look at this. Maria looked. There was a small, dark, damp spot on the burgundy velvet where Isabella's wet jacket had rested. My chair, Marcus said, his voice dripping with carefully constructed anger. This is imported Italian velvet. It costs $200 a yard. Now it's wet. Water stains velvet permanently. It needs professional restoration. That will cost $500. He watched them closely. This was the second part of the test. He wanted to see if Maria would get angry at Isabella. He wanted to see if the pressure would break their bond. He wanted to know if love, real, unconditional love, was possible. Maria looked from the spot to Marcus to her daughter. Tears streamed down her face. Mr. Wellington, please, she begged. I don't have $500. I haven't even been paid for this month yet. Please take it out of my wages. I will work for free. Just don't hurt my girl. Marcus felt something shift inside him. She would work for free. That was rare. And you, Isabella, Marcus said to the girl, you caused this damage. What do you have to say for yourself? Isabella stepped forward. She wasn't crying. Her small face was serious, determined. She reached into her pocket. I don't have $500, Isabella said softly, but I have this. She opened her small fingers. In the center of her palm sat a small battered toy car. It was missing one wheel. The paint was chipped and faded. It was clearly old and worthless to anyone else. But the way Isabella held it, it was sacred. This is Fast Eddie, Isabella explained, her voice carrying weight far beyond her years. He is the fastest car in the world. He was my daddy's before he went to heaven. Mommy gave him to me. Maria gasped. Isabella, no, you don't have to. It's okay, Mommy, Isabella said bravely, looking up at Marcus. You can have Fast Eddie to pay for the chair. I don't want you to be mad at Mommy. Isabella reached out and placed the broken toy car on the expensive mahogany table right next to the lamp. He's a good helper, Isabella whispered. He can fix things. Marcus stared at the toy. He felt like he couldn't breathe. The room suddenly felt very small. He looked at the stack of cash in his pocket. Thousands of dollars. Then he looked at the three-wheeled toy car on the table. This child, this beautiful, brave child, was offering her most precious possession. Not to steal. Not to manipulate, but to save her mother's job. She was sacrificing everything, including the only tangible connection to her dead father. Marcus's heart, which had been frozen for so many years, suddenly cracked wide open. The pain was sharp and immediate. He realized in that moment what he'd become. He'd become a man who was so afraid of being hurt that he'd convinced himself no one was capable of genuine kindness. He'd become someone so cynical that he couldn't recognize love when it sat right in front of him. I have a confession to make, Marcus said quietly. His voice completely changed. Maria and Isabella stood frozen, unsure what was coming. The chair isn't ruined, Marcus said. It's just water. It will dry in an hour. Maria's face showed confusion. And I wasn't asleep, Marcus continued. I was pretending. I left that money on the table on purpose. I wanted to test you both. I wanted to catch you stealing. I wanted to prove that everyone is a thief. He looked directly at Isabella. But you didn't steal anything. You gave me your jacket because you thought I was cold. You protected my money. And then you offered me your father's toy car, the only thing you have left of him, to save your mother's job. Marcus stood up, a difficult movement for his aged knees. I have lost my way, he whispered. I have all this money, but I am poor. You have nothing, yet you raised a miracle. He walked to the fireplace and took a deep breath. The test is over, he announced, and you passed, both of you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the thick envelope of money. Take this, Marcus said, walking to Maria and holding it out. Maria shook her head vigorously. No, sir, I don't want your money. I just want to work. I want to earn my keep. Take it, Marcus insisted. It is not charity. It is a bonus. It is payment for the lesson your daughter just taught me. Over the next hours and days, everything changed. Marcus made Isabella an offer. Come to the mansion every day after school. Do your homework. Teach an old man how to be kind again. In exchange, he would pay for her entire education. Isabella accepted, and neither of them knew that this single rainy Saturday would transform not just their lives, but everything they would build together for the next 15 years. The next morning, Isabella arrived at the mansion at 3:50 p.m., her school bag slung over her shoulder. Marcus was waiting for her in the library, sitting in the same burgundy armchair where everything had changed. He looked different already, less hard, softer somehow. Come in, Isabella, Marcus called out, his voice warm instead of gruff. Isabella approached hesitantly. She still didn't fully trust this man, even after yesterday's confession. Trust, she was learning, wasn't something you gave away quickly just because someone said they changed. I meant what I said yesterday, Marcus continued. You'll come here every day after school. You'll do your homework at that desk over there. And you'll teach me how to be kind again. Your mother is at home resting today. She earned it. She's been working too hard. Isabella looked around the library. It was massive. Floor-to-ceiling books, leather chairs, windows overlooking Massachusetts Avenue, where the rain had finally stopped and pale winter sunlight streamed through. It smelled like old paper and mahogany and the faint scent of the fireplace from yesterday. "Will I get in trouble with school?" Isabella asked practically. Marcus laughed, a real laugh, not bitter or cynical. "No, no. You'll come here after school. I've already spoken to your mother. You'll have time to do your homework, eat a snack, and then you'll be home by 7. She'll pick you up." Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Isabella would arrive at 3:15 p.m. and settle at the mahogany desk with her school books. Marcus would sit nearby, pretending to read but mostly watching her. He'd bring her snacks, homemade cookies at first, made by his housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, then gradually better things. Fresh fruit from the Whole Foods on DuPont Circle, chocolate from a fancy shop on K Street, never too much, never pushing, just presence. One afternoon in early April, Isabella was struggling with her algebra homework. She'd been staring at the same problem for 15 minutes, her pencil moving in frustrated circles. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked gently. "Numbers don't make sense," Isabella said bluntly. "My teacher says I'm bad at math, and I'm going to be bad at math forever." Marcus came and sat beside her. He looked at the problem, a complex equation. "You're not bad at math," Marcus said quietly. "You're just being shown math the way someone else thinks you should learn it. That doesn't mean it's the right way for you." For the next hour, Marcus walked Isabella through the problem differently, not textbook way, his way. By the end, Isabella understood not just that problem, but the concept behind it. I actually get it," Isabella said, surprised. "Of course you do," Marcus said. "You're brilliant. Nobody's ever bothered to show you how brilliant you are." Over those months, Marcus revealed something Isabella had never seen in her life. A person who genuinely believed in her. Not because she was cute or because she was his daughter, she wasn't, but because he saw her, really saw her, and understood her potential. One day in May, Isabella asked Marcus a question that stopped him cold. "Why do you care so much now?" she asked. "A few months ago, you were testing me. You thought I was a thief. Why the change?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. He picked up the toy car from the table, Fast Eddie now sitting permanently on display. "Because for 75 years, I thought money was everything," Marcus said slowly. "I thought kindness was weakness. I thought everyone was selfish because I was selfish. And then you showed me something I'd forgotten, that the poorest person in the world can be the richest in their heart." He looked at Isabella directly. "You didn't have to give me your jacket. You didn't have to protect my money. You didn't have to offer your most precious possession to save your mother. But you did, because that's who you are. And that made me want to be different. Not because I wanted a reward, but because you reminded me that goodness is real, and it matters." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "I miss my daddy," she said quietly. "I don't really remember his face anymore, and I'm scared I'll forget him completely." Marcus reached over and handed her Fast Eddie. "You won't forget him," Marcus said. "Every time you look at this car, you'll remember him. And I promise you, whenever you need to remember, I'll tell you stories about the girl who gave me this car, the girl who changed my whole life. That way, your father will live forever in how you live, in how you give, in how you love." Isabella held the toy car and cried. Not sad tears, but tears of being finally understood, finally seen, finally loved for exactly who she was. Outside, the Washington spring was blooming. Cherry blossoms drifted past the windows like snow. And inside the library on Massachusetts Avenue, a 75-year-old billionaire and a 12-year-old girl were learning what it meant to actually trust each other. If you're watching this and there's someone in your life who's trying to change, who's trying to be better, someone you've written off as too broken or too selfish or too far gone, Maybe it's time to give them what Isabella gave Marcus, a chance. Not because they deserve it, but because everyone deserves to know that transformation is possible. If you believe that people can change, that kindness can heal even the hardest hearts, please stay with us. Subscribe because you understand that these stories matter. These are stories about redemption, about second chances, about the power of seeing someone's potential when they can't see it themselves. That's what real change looks like. By the summer of that year, Marcus had made a decision that shocked everyone in his circle. He was stepping back from his business empire, not retiring completely, but delegating, restructuring, putting people he trusted, not yes men, but actual good people, in positions of power. His 3 biological children were furious. "Dad, what are you doing?" his oldest son, Robert, demanded during a video call. "You're handing the company to people who aren't even family." "Yes," Marcus said simply, "because family by blood doesn't mean family by character. I'm giving control to people who care about more than just profit margins and annual bonuses." His daughter, Catherine, was more direct. "This is because of that Maid's daughter, isn't it? Dad, she's manipulating you. She's changed my life," Marcus interrupted quietly. "And she's doing it by simply being herself, not asking for anything, not manipulating, just reminding me every single day what matters." Marcus hung up. He didn't feel guilt or shame. He felt something he'd forgotten how to feel: peace. That summer, Isabella spent more time at the mansion. Not just homework time, but real time. They'd sit in the garden, which Marcus had begun having restored to beauty, and talk about her dreams. Isabella wanted to go to college. She wanted to study education. She wanted to teach kids like herself. Poor kids, kids everyone had written off. Kids nobody believed in. "You will," Marcus said with absolute certainty, "and I'll help make sure of it." He began setting up a fund, not just for Isabella, but for scholarship programs, for underfunded schools in Washington, D.C., for kids in the neighborhoods around DuPont Circle, around the Whole Foods where Maria worked, around the places where potential was being wasted because nobody had bothered to invest in it. One day in July, a lawyer came to see Marcus. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Wellington, I need to discuss your will," the lawyer said. Marcus had been thinking about this for months. Now it was time to act. "I'm changing it," Marcus said, significantly. The lawyer's eyebrows rose. "The children will likely contest." "Let them," Marcus said. "I have something to say, and I want it documented." That afternoon, Marcus dictated a letter, a long, detailed letter explaining his decision, explaining that his biological children had never given him anything except requests for money, explaining that they had inherited trust funds at birth, but never once offered him genuine love, explaining that they had abandoned him and only reappeared when they wanted something. Then he wrote about Isabella, about what she had given him. Not money. She had nothing to give but her kindness, her time, her belief that even a bitter old man deserved warmth. "I am not changing my will out of spite," the letter concluded. "I am changing it out of gratitude. I am leaving my estate, my companies, my investments, and my savings to Isabella Delgado, who gave me back my soul. She did what billions of dollars and all my power could never do. She taught me how to love again." The lawyer looked shocked. "Mr. Wellington, this will be contested. Your children will survive fine," Marcus said. "They have their trust funds. They have more money than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. What they don't have, and what they'll never have because they've refused to earn it, is my respect. Isabella has something they don't, a good heart, and that's worth more than all the money in Washington." When Marcus told Isabella what he'd done, she was devastated. "Mr. Wellington, no," she said. "I didn't help you for money. I didn't." "I know," Marcus said gently. "That's exactly why I'm doing this. You helped me expecting nothing. That's love, Isabella. Pure, unconditional love. And the world doesn't value that enough. I'm going to change that, at least in my small way." "But your children—" "Will be fine," Marcus said firmly. And they'll have to live with the knowledge that they had a father who was willing to change, who was willing to learn, and who they rejected. That's their consequence, not yours, Isabella cried. Not tears of joy at gaining wealth, but tears of understanding what true love looked like. Love wasn't transactional. Love wasn't conditional. Love meant seeing someone's potential and investing in it because they mattered, not because they could give you anything in return. If you're watching this, you know what I'm about to say. In a world where everything is transactional, where everyone's keeping score, where love comes with conditions, we forget what it actually means to give without expecting return. Isabella didn't help Marcus to become rich. She helped him because that's who she is. And that's why she became rich. Kindness, real kindness, always comes back. Always. If you believe in the power of genuine goodness, if you believe that character matters more than money, if you believe we should all strive to be more like Isabella, please stay with us. Subscribe not because we're asking for it, but because you understand these stories need to be told. Because there are people out there who need to know that being good, being kind, being generous, those things have value, real value. Subscribe because you want to be reminded of that every single day. The legal papers were filed in August. Robert, Catherine, and Michael Wellington, Marcus's 3 children, immediately hired lawyers and began preparing a lawsuit. They claimed Marcus was being influenced. They claimed Isabella had manipulated an elderly man. They filed papers saying Marcus was mentally incompetent and the will was invalid. The media picked it up. The Washington Post ran a headline, "Billionaire disinherits children for Maid's daughter, competency questioned." The story spread like fire. News outlets speculated endlessly. Legal analysts debated. And through it all, Marcus and Isabella remained quiet. But the pressure was immense. Isabella wanted to withdraw. "Let them have the money," she told Marcus. "I don't need it. I just need you." "No," Marcus said firmly. "This isn't about the money for me anymore. This is about principle. This is about sending a message to the world that goodness matters, that character matters, that you don't get rewarded in life because of who your parents are. You get rewarded because of who you are." In September, Isabella started high school. She was now 13. The other kids, of course, knew about the lawsuit. Some were cruel, some were curious, some were jealous. Isabella endured it all with grace. She didn't brag about being set to inherit billions. She didn't use it against anyone. She just kept being exactly who she was, smart, kind, humble. One day, a girl approached her in the cafeteria. The girl, named Sophia, was from a wealthy family but seemed genuinely interested in Isabella. "I read about you in the Post," Sophia said. "You gave that man your jacket?" "Yeah," Isabella said simply. "That's the kindest thing I've ever heard," Sophia said. "My parents divorced, and I'm wondering which one will give me more money. And you're over here giving away your inheritance to teach a lesson about character." They became friends that day. October brought depositions. Marcus had to sit down with his children's lawyers and explain in detail why he was making this decision. He did so calmly, clearly, coherently. Every question designed to prove he was mentally unfit actually proved the opposite. He was sharp. He was articulate. He was perfectly, completely sane. The lawyer for the children grew frustrated. "Mr. Wellington, surely you understand how this looks. A young girl enters your life, and suddenly your entire will is rewritten." "It's not sudden," Marcus interrupted. "It's been brewing in my heart for 75 years. I've been a selfish, bitter man my whole life. This girl showed me a better way. And yes, I'm rewriting my will based on that, because I finally have clarity about what actually matters." November came. The court was set to make a ruling on whether the will was valid. The night before the hearing, Isabella couldn't sleep. She sat in the library, their library now really, at 3 a.m., holding fast Eddie. Marcus found her there. He never slept much anymore. "Scared?" he asked gently. "What if they're right?" Isabella said. "What if you really are just confused? What if in a year you realize you made a mistake and you resent me?" Marcus sat down beside her. He took the toy car from her hands and looked at it. Isabella, I've lived 75 years, he said. I've made thousands of decisions. Very few of them have felt right. This one, this decision to change, to become better, to invest in you, this is the one decision that feels completely, absolutely right. I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life. He handed the car back to her. Tomorrow the court will rule, and whatever happens, know this. You've already won. You've already changed me. You've already made my life better than I ever deserved. Everything else is just details. Isabella held fast steady and felt a deep, quiet peace settle over her. She wasn't worried about the money anymore. She was just grateful for this man and for the unexpected journey they'd taken together. The courtroom was packed. The media had turned this into a spectacle, a billionaire, his ungrateful children, and the poor girl who'd supposedly seduced her way into an inheritance. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Hayes, had seen a lot in her career, but even she seemed moved by the testimony. Marcus took the stand. He spoke calmly about his life, the loneliness, the cynicism, the bitter belief that everyone was selfish. He spoke about the day Isabella came into his mansion. He detailed, without drama or embellishment, exactly what had happened. Your Honor, Marcus said, I am a businessman. I understand contracts. I understand negotiations. I understand the principle of exchange. But what Isabella gave me cannot be negotiated for. It cannot be bought. It was a genuine act of kindness, expecting nothing in return. That is something I had never experienced before, and it changed everything. Then Isabella testified. She was 13 years old, and she spoke with a maturity that silenced the courtroom. I didn't know Mr. Wellington had money, she said clearly. I knew he was rich, but I didn't think about it. I saw a person who was cold, and I gave him my jacket. I saw money that might fall, and I moved it. I wasn't thinking about getting anything. I was just thinking about helping. She paused. When he told me he was going to leave me money, I told him no. I didn't want it. But he explained that he wasn't giving it to me as payment for kindness. He was giving it to me because kindness is something he'd forgotten how to see. And he wanted to invest in someone who still believed in it. So I accepted. Not because I wanted to be rich, but because I wanted to help Mr. Wellington become the person he wanted to be. The judge asked the lawyers to present their case. The children's lawyer tried to argue that Marcus was suffering from some kind of mental decline, that his affection for Isabella was abnormal, that the will was clearly the result of undue influence. But the evidence wasn't there. Marcus's medical records showed a sharp, healthy mind. There was no evidence of inappropriate relationship. There was simply an old man who had decided to change his priorities. The judge ruled quickly. This court finds that the will is valid, Judge Patricia Hayes announced. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate that Mr. Wellington is mentally incompetent. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate undue influence. The plaintiff has only demonstrated what Mr. Wellington himself has stated, that he was a different person before he met Isabella Delgado, and that he chose to become a better person after that meeting. This court cannot and will not penalize a man for personal growth and change values. The will stands as written. Marcus's biological children stood up immediately and walked out of the courtroom. They didn't look at Isabella. They didn't look at Marcus. They simply left. Marcus didn't feel triumph. He felt sadness. He had hoped that his children might someday understand why he'd made this choice, but they never would. Outside the courthouse, the media surrounded them. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. Isabella, how does it feel to inherit billions? Mr. Wellington, do you regret your decision? What do you say to those who question your relationship? Marcus put his arm around Isabella, and they walked past without answering. But that evening, Marcus released a statement through his lawyer. Today, the court validated what I have known since April. That character matters more than bloodline. That kindness is worth more than money. That the measure of a person is not in what they take from the world, but in what they give. Isabella Delgado is not my daughter by blood, but she is my daughter by choice, and I am eternally grateful for the transformation she has sparked in me. I look forward to spending the rest of my life proving that her faith in my ability to change was not misplaced. That night, Isabella sat in the library holding fast Eddie. She looked at the armchair, the place where it all had begun, where a test had turned into a transformation, where a billionaire had learned that the poorest person in the room could teach him the greatest lesson of his life. This is what courage looks like. This is what it means to stand by your principles even when the world questions you, even when your own family abandons you, even when there's a cost. If you believe in standing up for what's right, if you believe in the power of kindness to transform us, if you believe that we should reward character and goodness, please know you're not alone. There are thousands of people watching who feel the same way, who want to live in a world where kindness wins, where integrity matters. Subscribe because you're part of building that world. You're part of a community that believes in the power of these stories to change how we see each other, to inspire us to be better. That's everything. 10 years passed. Isabella grew from a 13-year-old girl into a beautiful, accomplished young woman. She graduated high school with honors. She attended Georgetown University, studying education and social work. She didn't touch a single dollar of her inheritance during college, insisting on earning scholarships and working part-time at a local bookstore. Marcus watched her grow with a pride he'd never felt for his biological children. She was becoming exactly what she dreamed, a person who wanted to change the world. During those 10 years, Marcus's health began to decline. His heart, which had been healed by Isabella's kindness, was also aging. He had several scares, hospital visits, close calls, but each time he came back, because he wasn't ready to leave yet, because he still had work to do. Marcus and Isabella had become partners in every sense except legal documents. Together, they founded the Wellington Foundation for Education, not just providing scholarships, but building schools. Beautiful schools in underfunded neighborhoods. Schools with books and computers and art programs and music. Schools that said to poor kids, your education matters. You matter. The foundation grew. By the time Isabella turned 23, they'd built 17 schools across Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Isabella's mother, Maria, became the director of operations for the foundation. She'd left her job at Whole Foods, though she visited the store often, remembering where her journey had truly begun. She was now managing millions of dollars with the same careful grace she'd once used to polish silver. Marcus loved having Maria work alongside him. It was a daily reminder of where it had all started, with a desperate widow and her brave daughter. On Isabella's 23rd birthday, Marcus threw a party at the mansion, the same mansion where everything had changed. The rooms that had once been cold and dark were now filled with light and laughter. Isabella's friends from college were there, her professors, the teachers from the schools they'd built, families whose children had benefited from the foundation, hundreds of people whose lives had been changed by the simple decision of one girl to show kindness to a stranger. As the party wound down, Marcus asked Isabella to come to the library, the place where they'd spent so many afternoons together. I have something for you, Marcus said. He handed her a document. It was an update to his will, notarized and legal. I'm changing some things, Marcus said. Not about the money, that's still all yours, but about the foundation. I'm putting it entirely in your hands now. Full control. You're ready, Isabella. More than ready. Isabella read the document with tears in her eyes. Mr. Wellington? Call me Marcus, he said gently. We're long past formality. Marcus, Isabella said, smiling through her tears. What if I fail? You won't, Marcus said with absolute certainty. But even if you did, it wouldn't matter, because you would fail while trying to do good, and that's all that ever matters. They stood together in the library, the old man and the young woman who'd changed each other's lives so completely. I want you to know something, Marcus said quietly. Every day for 10 years, I've woken up grateful. Grateful for that rainy Saturday. Grateful for your jacket. Grateful for Fast Eddie. grateful for the lesson that the poorest heart can be the richest soul. He picked up the toy car from its place of honor on the table. It was perfectly preserved, gleaming, the missing wheel now crafted from solid gold by a master jeweler, a symbol of how brokenness can become beautiful when it's transformed by love. This car, Marcus said, came to me as a test, but it became so much more. It became proof that miracles happen, that change is possible, that kindness can transform the world. He placed it in Isabella's hands. Keep this close, Marcus said. When you build a school, remember this car. When you help a child nobody else believes in, remember this car. When you're tired or discouraged, remember that a 12-year-old girl gave up her most precious possession for a stranger. That's what we're all capable of. Isabella held the car and understood, in that moment, the full weight and beauty of her mission. Marcus Wellington died peacefully in his sleep at 85 years old. He was sitting in the burgundy armchair in the library, the same chair where everything had changed 15 years earlier. His hand was resting on the side table, right next to the lamp. He looked like he was simply sleeping, a small, gentle smile on his face. Isabella found him that morning. She'd come by as she did every morning before heading to work at the foundation office. She didn't cry immediately. She just sat down in the chair across from him and held his hand. They'd had 15 beautiful years together, 15 years of building something meaningful, 15 years of proving that transformation was possible. The funeral was held at a large church in Georgetown. Thousands of people came, teachers whose schools Marcus had built, students whose lives had been changed, parents who'd been given hope, but also members of the community who'd simply heard the story and been inspired by it. His biological children attended. They looked uncomfortable, regretful, but they didn't speak to Isabella. They'd made their choice long ago. The reading of Marcus's updated will was simple. He had very little left. Most of his wealth had gone into the foundation, into schools, into changing lives. What remained went to Isabella and Maria, along with the mansion and the library. But Marcus had left a letter, a personal letter that Isabella opened alone, in the library, sitting in the armchair, that held so many memories. "My dearest Isabella," it began, "if you're reading this, then I am gone. I hope I lived long enough to see you become the woman I always knew you would be. I hope I lived long enough to watch you build schools, inspire students, change the world. I want you to know that you were right about that rainy Saturday. You asked me once if you had changed my life. The answer is, you saved my life. You didn't just change how I think about money or success or power. You changed the fundamental way I understand what it means to be human. I was 75 years old and I had spent decades building walls. You were 12 and you broke through them with nothing but a worn hoodie and a kind heart. I've tried to repay that debt with money, with schools, with investments in your future. But I want you to know that no amount of money could ever equal the value of what you gave me, the chance to become someone I could respect. When I'm gone, I want you to know that you have nothing to prove. You've already proven everything. You're brilliant. You're kind. You're exactly the person I believed you could be. And now it's your turn to be that person for someone else. Find the people no one believes in. Find the kids everyone has written off. Find the hearts that are frozen like mine was, and show them what you showed me, that transformation is always possible, that kindness always matters. That character is the only real currency in this world. Build your schools, inspire your students, change your world. And every time you look at Fast Eddie, remember, a heart that's been broken can become more beautiful, more valuable, more real than one that's never been tested. I love you, Isabella. You are my greatest legacy. Marcus. Isabella read the letter over and over, each word burning itself into her heart. That day, she made a decision. The next school they would build would be called the Marcus Wellington Academy of Excellence. Not because he'd wanted it named after him, but because his story needed to be told. Because other people needed to know that change was possible, that kindness was real, that a stranger could become family if you let them in. Over the next decade, Isabella became a billionaire in her own right, not from inheritance, but from the foundation's growth, from investments, from donations that poured in as her story became known worldwide. But she never forgot where she came from. Every school had a library. Every library had a special corner. And in that corner, there was a single book, The Story of Fast Eddie, How Kindness Changed a Billionaire's Heart. Children read about the girl who gave her jacket, about the man who learned to love, about the toy car that became a symbol of transformation. And every year on the anniversary of that rainy Saturday, Isabella would gather students and teachers and parents, and she would tell them, there was once a billionaire who thought everyone was selfish. There was once a girl who proved him wrong. And together they changed the world, not with money, but with kindness. And if you're listening to this story, I'm asking you to be like that girl. Find someone who needs warmth. Give them your jacket. Give them your time. Give them your belief in their potential. Because that's how the world changes. One act of kindness at a time. One person showing up for another. One heart breaking open to let love in. Be like Isabella. Be someone's miracle. Be the person who reminds them that transformation is possible. Be the kindness that changes a life. If you've stayed with us through this entire story, you already know what I'm about to say. You know that these aren't just stories. They're invitations. Invitations to be better. Invitations to see the potential in people we've written off. Invitations to believe that kindness actually works, actually matters, actually changes the world. Marcus thought everyone was greedy until Isabella showed him otherwise. How many people in your life need someone to show them that goodness is real? How many broken hearts need to encounter genuine kindness? How many lost people need to meet someone who believes in them? You are that person for someone, and that someone needs you to show up. Subscribe to this channel, not as a favor to us, but as a commitment to yourself, a commitment to being the kind of person Isabella was, someone who looks at the suffering and doesn't look away, someone who gives without expecting return, someone who believes in transformation. These stories matter because they remind us who we can be, and that reminder, that's everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for believing. Thank you for being the kind of person who understands that the poorest heart can be the richest soul. Now go be someone's miracle.